expected for you. Oh yeah, you're teaching.
Morning, everybody. I think it's about time that we get started. Ben's away on his vacation, so I'm leading the Bible study for him. Ben's pretty slick. Gave me a call and said, "Hey, I'm going to be going on vacation. I need you to take Bible study for me. Can you handle that for me?" And I thought, as I was driving to work, "Yeah, sure, fine. That's no problem." Then last week he announces that I'm doing the Bible study for him. He says, "I'm going to be gone for 3 weeks, and Scott's going to take over the Bible study." So I'm going to do everything I can to not get him fired, because after 3 weeks, maybe he can start over and fix all my mistakes. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to start in Colossians. I think we started just before or just into the 3rd chapter of Colossians. So if you would, bow with me and we'll get started with a prayer. Let a couple people come. Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for this time that we could gather here and learn another portion of your word, and hopefully have receptive hearts and apply it to our lives and seek to be pleasing to you, Lord. Help us to always remember our first love. Always be willing to serve and do your will. Thank you especially for Christ, what he represents for us, and everything he did for us, and his great example. In Jesus' name I pray. I think I'm just going to start in Colossians 3. If I'm correct, we don't have monitors, so we're going to have to go old school and break open our Bibles and just read along. I remember not that long ago when we used to go to church and we would sit even closer. We would all just kind of move up close and open up our Bibles and have a discussion. In fact, the preacher at the time, I don't remember him standing up on a podium up above us and stuff. He'd actually come in really close, and we'd sit there and open up the Bible, and then we would contemplate what it's saying. And it was good. It was a really close family kind of feel. You know, today, now we've got monitors and TVs, and we're on the internet, and we're all over the place, perfect lighting and podiums and speakers, and if you'd have seen this place yesterday, you wouldn't believe it today. So I'll start in Colossians. Since then you have been raised with Christ. Set your hearts on all things above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. For you died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, when Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory. So we read a lot of stuff that Paul writes to these different churches. And Paul always comes with a carrot and a stick. You know, he comes to these churches and he writes to these churches and says, you know, hey, you guys are really doing a great job in this. You're really doing well with this. And then he says, here, you need to work on this. And that's a really great leadership tactic, to acknowledge what people do well, what congregations do well, and tell them what they need to fix in love. And here he starts out telling us, you know, set your hearts on things above. Set your hearts on Christ. Set your mind on all the things above. And so often, every day, and I'm going to reflect on my own self. Every day, we start out one way and we step out the door, and we may not get down the block before all of a sudden we're no longer focused on the one thing that matters most. We're focused on today, the thing, the task. And we're going to get further into this, and we're going to get into the idols that we place before ourselves. Whether it's getting the kids to the soccer game, whether it's getting a haircut, getting groceries, getting dinner cooked, fixing the house, making a sound booth, getting here on time. Randy's not here yet, but I drove to get my truck washed just because he busted me for not having a clean truck last week. And here I was, clean on 28, and I get a phone call. I don't have the key to get in. Yeah, I'll be there when I get there. But wasn't focused on things above. I was actually taking the time to drive and focus on the task that I have at hand. But so easily, life gets into the way of our eternity. When we get to our eternity, this little spark of life that we had for a half a second, what's that going to mean? But our whole eternity rides on that. So, does anybody have anything they'd like to add about being focused and keeping our focus on things above? Go ahead, Susan. Mm. Yeah. Anybody else? One thing we do, and it's helped us a lot. I'm not saying this to like blow my horn and puff my chest out and say, oh, we do this. But every morning when we get up, we have a little space in time where we don't have a 3-year-old terrorist running around. And it's not always perfect because sometimes he wakes up right after that. But we wake up and we go downstairs and our 2 teenagers and my wife and I have a small devotional. We read a little bit of the scriptures. We make one of the kids read it. And we focus on that. And we have a discussion. And then we pray. And if it all works out, our 3-year-old isn't there yet. But if not, he's there and he's involved as well. But it does help you to just take that first right step. I don't know if anybody else has read the book Make Your Bed. It's a book about leadership. It's a book about how simply making your bed every day, taking that first step every day to get up and make your bed before you start on an accomplishment rather than struggling with all of the failures you have in front of you. But further on in the day, after we get away from our first initial step, then we have all the other struggles that come along with life. And I find myself, I'll give Dave a call or a text him, say, how are you doing? Or I'll talk to Ben, or I'll touch base with some of my other Christian brothers, and we help each other move along through the day. It helps. It helps a lot. Now, if I get a hold of one of my worldly friends, then I'm going to go down a rabbit hole, and I do. And I think I'm firm in my faith, but I also know where my cracks and weaknesses are. And, like Carl, I think you're the one that says that Satan knows where your goats are hidden. You go down that rabbit hole, he's got it all set up for you. So if we don't have anything else to add, I'm going to read a little bit more, and we'll we'll move on. Put to death, therefore, what belongs to your earthly nature: sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desire, and greed, which is idolatry. Because of these, the wrath of God is coming. I said earlier that a lot of these things, these inert things that we put in front of us, could easily become our idols. Work a pretty busy schedule, and I also am building a house. And I find when we're praying in the morning, getting ready to start our day, there are times when I literally have to stop myself, back up, and concentrate on what we're praying about. I don't know how many times in the last 2 days I've been thinking about plywood on my roof and fascia boards on my roof on my new house. Literally distracting me from the real things at hand, the most important things at hand. It's so easy for the small things that we focus on can become an idol, and we don't even really realize it. Whether it's the car we drive, the house we have, the things that we're doing, and even things that we consider, we got to do this for our kids or whatever. This, we got to get over to Taekwondo, or we got to go down to the soccer game, or I can't be there Sunday because it's trout season. I got to be fishing with my kids. So, and as long as it's not of God, what is it? If it's not of heaven, what is it? It's either of Christ or it's anti-Christ. So there's a careful balance we have to keep. And there's a way to make things of Christ as long as we keep our focus right. So, anyone want to add anything to what Paul's listed here as things that we need to stay away from and not? Go ahead, Paul. I do too. It's an effort. You really have to make that effort. Go ahead, Susan. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes recognizing something has tripped you up is half the battle. Half the time I don't even realize I've been spun out and I'm about to wreck. Like I'm going a different direction, and I need to be focused on what I should be focused on. Funny thing about our phones, how many people here have Apple phones, have Apple products? So, do you know what I'm going to say? No? Okay. No? No. So look at your Apple phone. What is the image on your Apple phone? What's the bite out of the apple represent? You take and eat of this, you'll be like gods, all things. How fast can we know all things right now? Yeah. And what do the phones usually do to us? Right down the rabbit hole. I mean, I see it here. Sometimes I'll be walking through serving communion and I'll see somebody on their phone banging out a game or something. What are you doing? Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. It's a great tool. Right. Right. Sure. I, I'm not bashing the phone and I'm not bashing Apple, but it just seems ironic to me that the symbol of Apple is the fall. It's just so, and I don't know if that was an accident or intentional or whatever, but it's kind of surprising that that image is on there. If there's nothing else, I'll read a little bit further. Does anybody have anything else? So, you used to walk in these ways in life, in life you once lived, but now you must also rid yourself of all such things as these. This is one I really have to work on here. Anger, rage, malice, slander, filthy language from your lips. Do not lie to each other, since you have taken off your old self with its practices and have put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge in the image of its creator. So I was talking to Ben, came over, well, he borrowed Jesse for a while to help mow grass, and he brought him back to my house and the new house that we're building, and I was talking to him about, struggling with some of these things. He pointed out that, this takes a half a second for me to get in the wrong mindset, and I'll be cussing like a sailor. You won't even know I'm a Christian. You wouldn't even think I was a Christian. In fact, you'd be sure I wasn't. And he pointed out the fact that that's exactly what Peter did when he wanted to distance himself from God. When he wanted to distance himself from Christ to save his own hide, that's what he did. And it put a different perspective on it. When I'm cussing and swearing, putting a distance between me and being a Christian, I'm trying to be whatever the image is in that scenario. It's all these things that we have to put away. I notice when people, I don't struggle with it as much now. When I was younger, I struggled with anger and rage. But someone pointed out to me that it's a loss of control. When you lose control of yourself, your own behavior, you've handed that control to someone else. You go into a gas station in a fit of rage and act like a lunatic, kicking cans over and causing a fight. Someone else is going to take control of you, and you're going to go away in cuffs. If you don't learn how to control yourself, society will teach you how to control yourself, and you'll be locked up for a long time before you learn how to behave. Some of those lessons are hard learned. We don't want to give our control to Satan. We don't want Satan to control us. We want Christ to compel us. We want the things of higher nature to control us. We want the world to see what we love, see what's important to us, not see that we ourselves are important to ourselves and we're more important than Christ. That's what we're doing whenever we do these things. And I do it, and I struggle with it a lot. And it seems to be almost one of the most difficult things for me being a Christian. I never had a problem with drinking and drugs and all these other things, but just trying to be one of the cool guys that's on the job site, I think that's going to fit into heaven real well. Anybody else have something they want to add? Okay, move along. You guys are all grimacing at me. I'm hoping I'm not hurting you too bad. So, thank you. But now you must also rid yourselves of all such things. I think I read this. Yes, I did. I'm sorry. That last part. Have put on a new self, which is being renewed in knowledge and in the image of its creator. Think about that. Knowledge. It's the thing that changes us. If we're not learning how to apply these things to our lives, if we're not spending quality time around people who have achieved these goals that we set for ourselves, if we're not looking at what the image of our Creator is, how are we ever going to be what we profess to be? From there, I'll just move on. Here there is no Gentile or Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbarian, here's a tough word, Scythian, slave or free, but Christ is all and is in all. So I had to look up Scythian. So from what I found, there's somewhere around Iran, they were a nomadic group of people. The reason they were around the Colossians is they were herders. Colossians were known for their wool trade, so they just seemed to be in that community, in and out, and around that area. So that's why there's that connection there. But there must have been some there when Paul was writing this, so that he could include them in this. So I'll just move on. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord has forgave you. So yesterday, we worked here at the building. Several of us worked here at the building. I have an Amish guy that works for me on the weekends, and I didn't want to short him a day, so I had Dave bring him here. Dave's the Amish Uber. If anybody needs an Amish Uber guy, that's Dave. But he was here working, and he was different than us, but he was very similar than us. With us. Very humble. Very quiet. He's patient. the gentle guy. He's strong. He's a strong guy. He could be loud and obnoxious. He's very capable of those things, but he's not. I've known him for 4 or 5 years. And when you walk into the shop, he does all of the finish work. He doesn't build the cabinets, but he does all the finish work. He's back there with a diesel generator running an air compressor so he can't hear me come in. And I come in, and he's back there singing. He sings hymns, and he whistles hymns. And he sounds like an angel. His voice is absolutely beautiful. But there was some guys here that was working with him and Carl and I. And everybody noticed. He's such a nice guy. He's so peaceful, kind, he's patient. He'd just simply stand there and wait for me to say, okay, let's cut this. Let's do whatever. Oh, you want to carry that stuff around? Okay, let's carry it around. And oddly enough, I told him yesterday, I said, I love working with you. He looked at me and he said, I love you. What a guy. Probably wouldn't like that I'm mentioning him today, but anyway, go ahead. Yeah. Anybody else? Go ahead, Susan. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what the world teaches us to do. Yeah. Um, Anybody have anything else at all? Okay, I'll just move on. What's that? liabilities that they have to deal with. Right. Yeah, it's definitely different in different areas where we live, for sure, but, so, all right, I'll move on. Um, Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, did I just read this? Did, huh? Yeah. Bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord has forgiven you. And over all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. That is absolutely imperative. To put on love. It's the one tie that binds everything else. It's without love, how do you forgive somebody? And maybe it's not love for that person. Maybe it's love for Christ. Maybe it's love for the church. Maybe it's love for what you should be. You know, I don't feel, as far as forgiveness goes, and this is an opinion, I don't feel that it's forgiveness is for the other person. I could forgive Carl for punching my finger yesterday, or I could hold a grudge against him for doing that. Either way, what's it doing to Carl? What's it doing to me if I hold that grudge? If I carry that with me? And it's happened to me in the past where there's forgiveness that needs to happen, and even thought that I forgave that person. And I realized years later, or over a certain amount of time, that when I really did forgive that person, there's a huge weight, a huge disability that I unloaded. We love each other, care for each other. There's nothing that can stop us as a group, as a Christian community, to really care about the other people that are next to us, to really give that love willingly, not with a tag on it that, oh, I did this for you. You know, you never give a gift expecting something in return. Gift is given freely, and you don't expect anything back. I've given Alvin gifts, and he loves the box more than I give him the gift. Okay? But it wasn't, I didn't expect him to turn around and give me something in return. So, of course, there's different types of love. We've discussed those different types of love. But we're all different. Every one of us is completely and utterly different than the next person. We all function differently. I got to know Clyde a little bit yesterday, and he's different than Carl is. Carl's different than Brian is. Clem, we're not going to talk about Clem. But we're all different. But we're all a functional part if we care for one another and work together, seek to serve, keep our minds on higher things. We built that booth yesterday. Okay. You know, whatever. I would like to see us have to build a new building. I would like to see this place grow immensely, strong, and being an example to all the communities around here. I would like the communities around here to know who the Church of Christ in Katanning is. Oh, that's that place that takes care of people, that place that helps people. That's that place that you can go to and hear something about God and know that it's the truth. That should be our goal, to seek and save the lost, continue to grow. Anybody have anything there? Well, I mean, Satan, Satan wants that. Satan wants that division. Yeah. Well, sometimes there's a mindset too. When we love each other, I'm not looking for all of Brian's flaws. I'm looking for the greatness that he brings with him. I'm looking for Christ in him. I'm looking for that light in him. Carl, the same thing. We all have flaws. I could bring a bag of rottenness with me into a congregation. I guarantee I have. Guarantee that same bag of rottenness is in me if I let it out, if I don't keep it under control, if I don't represent what Christ wants me to represent. I can behave poorly. We all could behave poorly. But we're here trying to edify one another, build each other up, and glorify God in that. I hope I answered your question there. There is a higher standard. We're trying to love here. We're not trying to glorify and shed a spotlight on all the wrongs that are out there. We all have flaws, and that's the nature of it. Anybody else? Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, since as members of one body you are called to peace. Be thankful. Let the message of Christ dwell among you richly as you teach and admonish one another with all wisdom through psalms, hymns, and songs from the Spirit, singing to God with gratitude in your hearts. Kind of goes along with what I just said. Let the peace of Christ be in you. Know that we have a higher calling. We have a home that's not here. This place is going to be gone in a flash. Go ahead, Susan. Right. I firmly agree with you there on that. I think we're going to have to pick it up next week. If I don't get fired, I guess I'll be doing it next week too. So thanks for letting me do this.